Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Touchpoint Group 2023 Banking App Awards. After the feedback we had from the 2022 awards, this was always going to happen. Now, these awards are based on data that we have collected over 1 million data points over the last 12 months, from the 1st of November 2022 all the way through to the 31st of October 2023. And we wanted to get them out to you before Christmas 2023. So you got something to mull over while you are getting away. And Tony Patrick, this isn't a subjective process, is it? Being the head of customer intelligence.
No, you're right, Glenn. A lot of awards out there are just based on subjective, I suppose you call it, just on opinion about how the apps are actually working. This is the app in the wild as it's working out in the wild with customers. So this is the real world. And so what we're showing here is actually what's important to customers, but also who is actually leading on those key things that are good for customers.
Mm-hmm. And before we get into the individual
Yep.
awards, how about you just talk us through the process in regards to things like that engaged customer score and how that data is collected?
That's a good point. So this data is coming directly from the App Store and the Google Play Store. So what we do, though, is not just collect everything coming through into those systems. We collect information which is anyone who's given both a score and their comment. We call that the engaged customer score. And that's very important because these are the people who have an interest and are giving you feedback. It's both positive and negative, and that gives us a really good feel of what's going on. So any movements we see, we know exactly why they're going on because there's a comment connected to it. So a very important piece of work behind this to get this running the way it has.
Fantastic. So without further ado, let's rip into it, looking at the UK market. And that first award is for the UK main banks winner. And I'll just reiterate, we are going to show the awards for the main banks that are winning. We will also tell you about a number of banks that we've recognised for great contributions. And then Tony will, while he's going through the data, he will give you some insights in regards to category winners and why they actually came to that point. So over to you, Tony.
Brilliant. Thank you, Glenn. So let's just jump in here. So straight away, this is what I'm calling the nominees. This is our top three across 2023. So Lloyds, Nationwide, and NatWest. Of course, Nationwide went through a rebrand recently after many years of a different look. So this is our nominees, the top three. But let's get straight into it. Who is the winner? So who's the winner out of these three? So for 2023, it is Lloyds. So Lloyds is very consistent. So we'll see that in a moment. So Lloyds has done very well on a few areas. Let's have a look, though, at why they've actually done so well. So first of all, we can look here and see this is the score across the past year for Lloyds. And one of the things you'll see, this is a score out of 5, and they're sitting pretty much consistently above 4.5. And they represent what we see as one of the global best players in terms of banking app experience. And you can see there's not much movement either. They're not sort of suddenly dropping away when there's problems. They're very consistent across time as they have new app releases. So very positive movement. Now, we have seen this before. This is one of the things. NatWest was actually up there with Lloyds for a good chunk of the past year, but they had issues recently. Now, but at the same time, they wouldn't have got to first place because they never really hit above that Lloyds level. But NatWest has the opportunity and the heritage to get back up there as well. So that's what we want to see from them, is to get back up to that level as well. So I won't go through every one of these, but what I will do is have a look at why Lloyds has won. What we're looking at here are pain points. These are problems people are having across 4 key areas. So we're looking here at reliability and stability, features and functionality, design and UI, and authentication. So issues people have across those 4 key areas. And this is done using advanced AI text analytics. And so we then categorize that into here. And this then reflects what that score looks like. You can tell here, look, if I look here at Lloyds, I can see clearly it's actually in blue here. It's sitting below all the others, which is good because you want to get those pain points as low as we can. Now, in some categories, we have one bank actually leads on the score, but then maybe in some areas that actually they might do better on some of these topics. But Lloyds has done well across the board. So the reliability is below 8%, features and functionality issues is below 3%, And even on the right here, design and UI is only just over 2%. So very, very positive for authentication there at 2%. So they've done very well across the board, which is why they have succeeded. So from my perspective, just keep what Lloyds is doing and use them for best practice.
Now, moving on, we have the UK challenger banks, and always interesting, always tight at the top with these guys, but there is definitely a standout here. And Tony, I'll let you take us through the nominees.
Brilliant. Thank you, Glenn. Yeah, so a few different types of banks in here. But what I'll do, I'll just show you here quickly. These are our nominees. Now, when I say nominees, these are our top 3 across the past 12 months. And again, just to reiterate, this is based on customer feedback. This is based on what customers are saying. This isn't our opinion. This is actually what they're saying, and this is what we're seeing in the market. So we have Atom Bank, Metro Bank, and Starling Bank. So out of those 3, who is our 2023 winner? It is Starling Bank. Now, always a top performer. They performed very well last year and performing very well this year. So very positive news for Starling Bank. I will now move into why they came on top. So what have they done differently to everyone else to come out on top? Let's have a look here. So one of the things we can see here is that score across time. This is the engaged customer score. And if I just highlight Starling here, what I can see for them, they are sitting at around 4.5 or just above 4.5, and very similar to what we're seeing for Lloyds. So very, very strong and very positive feedback about the performance of the app. Only a couple of times across the year, we had a couple of banks, tip over into that space. And one of those is Atom, which was one of our nominees. They tipped over only for 1 or 2 months. The remainder of the time, Starling was sitting well above the top there. So very positive news for Starling. But let's have a look as to why. Why did they lead on there? So what are from the important things that customers are seeing, why did they lead? So if we just focus here on the yellow. So the yellow here is Starling. And going across here, what we're seeing here are the issues, the pain points people are having across various parts of the app experience. So reliability and stability, obviously a very core one. Design and UI, so is the UI working as expected? Features and functionality, is that coming up to speed for the market? And authentication coming through here as well. I'll start on the left here at reliability. This is one of the more important ones. Obviously, if the app's not reliable, then you can't get in and do what you're supposed to be doing. So they're doing very well. So Starling sitting at 6.4%. The closest competitor is Metro Bank, and as we saw, they were up there in the top 3 nominees. So very positive there. Design and UI, though, is interesting. We're seeing, although Starling won out overall, design and UI issues for Metro Bank were low, the lowest across the market here. So we can see they're doing very well in terms of the design and UI issues. It's very low. And we have there, even some others like Moniz is slightly better, but it's very, very tight race except for a couple on the outside. Features and functionality issues, we can see there that Starling wins again at 2.1. And authentication, so logging in, they're doing very well at below 1%, which is probably global best practice in terms of those types of issues are very low. So very well done to Starling, but also Metro is starting to give them a bit of a challenge on a few areas.
Yeah, great to see. A clean sweep for Lloyds in the main banking categories, and very tight here, but Starling, yet again, very strong across the board, but well done to Metro. And now we're moving into the US market, and the Touchpoint Group Banking App Awards for 2023 Best Overall App for the US Tier 1 banks. Last year, Tony Patrick, it was a clean sweep to US Bank, I believe. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest have tried to catch up.
Yes, definitely. So let's have a look. So let's jump in straight away and have a look at the nominees. Now, when I say nominees, these are our top 3 across the past 12 months. And just to be clear, this is actually what customers are saying. It's not our opinion, and this is the app in the wild and the feedback that's coming through for them. So this is what customers are saying. Capital One, Truist, and US Bank are our top 3, but the winner for 2023 is US Bank. So they've done it again compared to last year, and a very good job at that. One of the things I'd like to have a look at is why they've done that. So what we can do is have a quick look at their scores across time. So if we look at US Bank, their scores across time, they're consistently sitting at around between 4.6 and 4.8 out of 5. That is very high. That is one of the highest globally. They're doing a very good job of it. They had a bit of a glitch in April, but that glitch is very minor compared to some others and their movements they're having. So a very positive movement for US Bank, and a very positive thing for them. The likes of Truist and Capital One are picking themselves up, but again, it's US Bank becomes the benchmark for what you should be doing to improve. Now, when I said what are they doing, let's have a look at what they're doing. Why did they get so high, and what's going on with this data? So let's have a look. One of the key things, if you look at US Bank in the blue on the left of these charts, what these are is looking at pain points. So what percentage of the feedback mentions these types of pain points? We're using AI text analytics to categorize these. So clearly across the board, let's look at these one by one. On the left, we have reliability and stability. So is the app working as expected or crashing or whatever? In the case of US Bank, it rarely is. They have only 5.7% of people talking about reliability and stability issues compared to others. So very positive win for them in that reliability and stability topic. If we move across to authentication, we see that they only have 0.9% of their feedback is related to any authentication issues. So very, very low. Below 1% is the benchmark globally about what you should be achieving here. And it's very tough to get there, and they've done a very good job again to get to that point. Let's move across to features and functionality issues. So issues customers are having with the features and certain things the app is attempting to perform. So again, US Bank is number one here. They've actually had the lowest level of pain points here at 2.5%. So very positive again, and they're actually doing very well compared to the market here. Let's step across to design and UI. So these types of issues are things like difficulty in doing things and actually using the app as you'd expect. So design and UI issues getting below 3%. So very, very positive. So again, US Bank has swept the board in terms of the overall score, but in terms of these particular topics, they've done very well to keep these pain points low.
Now, if we move into the US National Banks category, it's tied at the top yet again. We have three very, very worthy nominees. Tony, I'll let you take us straight into it, and let's have a look underneath all of that data.
Brilliant. Thank you, Glenn. So let's step in. So first of all, who are our nominees? So when I say nominees, these are our top three across 2023. So we've got Bank of America, Citi, and Discover. And as you recall, this is actually about customers. This isn't my opinion about how these apps are working. It's actually customers voting in here in terms of their comments out there publicly. So one of the great things about that is this is your app in the wild. It's great to sort of view your app in terms of its features and so on. But here we're looking at in the wild, is it working as expected? So out of these three, who is our winner for 2023? It is Citi. So Citi's done very well here, and actually they do well across the board in various areas. So let's have a look at why they're doing well. First of all, let's look at the overall score and how consistent that's been across time. This is one of the things about the leaders in a lot of these areas is consistency. So Citibank at the top there, sitting around 4.5, not much movement either between sort of 4.6 and 4.5. So very, very positive across the board. We have the likes of Bank of America. They seem to be, there's a slight gap between the two of them. So that's obviously something for Bank of America to achieve is to get to that level. They're very, very close to doing that, but not quite there yet. So positive movement from both of those banks. But let's look at why Citibank actually led into that area there. Let's have a look. Now, what we're looking at here are pain points across various areas. And this is a very strong indicator of how if you're going to score well across the board. I'll look across these one by one. So this is using AI text analytics to categorize comments from customers to bring out these particular topics. So I'll look on the left here, reliability and stability issues or pain points. Citibank has done well to get that below 10%, and they're at 8. However, Bank of America is also doing reasonably well at 8.5. So again, Bank of America can lift themselves up potentially next year to bring themselves ahead of Citibank in this case. Let's step across to design and UI. So this is the design and UI issues. So customers talking about issues they have with the design and UI. Again, Citibank is doing very well at 3.5. The closest one there is Discover Financial, which was one of our top three. So they've done well there, but again, they can't get to the level of Citibank can do. They've done a very good job to get this down to 3.3. I'll step across again to features and functionality issues, and we see there that Citibank is sitting at 3%. So again, they are leading. They have won that category, and again, they've these three areas I've looked at so far. They're leading on those, and have done very well. This is why Discover also is doing well. It's only 3.8% issues with features and functionality. So positive for Discover as well. So one interesting thing, though, is although Citibank has done well on these three areas, they are actually not doing as well as Bank of America on authentication. So logging in issues, biometrics and things like that. Bank of America is the leader in this particular area, doing very well and ahead of Citibank. So positive news for both, but again, Bank of America leading here.
Okay, now as we move into the Touchpoint Group Banking App 2023 awards for the best overall app in the US regional banks category. And Tony, I have had a sneak peek, and I do know that this again is very tight at the top, and there is quite stiff competition for the overall, but also the individual categories. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can walk us through.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, this is slightly different. There is a leader, but of course it's a bit tight about who is going to lead here overall. So let's first of all look at our nominees. These are our nominees. These are our top three across the past year. And as I've talked about before, it's really important to understand this is what customers think. This is what the customer perspective. This isn't a professional opinion. This is what customers think, and they're leading this conversation. So our nominees here are Citizens Bank, KeyBank, and Regions. Let's just jump in and see who's won overall for 2023. It is Regions. So Regions has done well in this case here. But as we do normally, let's jump in and see why they've actually done so well. First of all, we can look at the scores they've done overall. So first of all, let's have a look at the Regions score across time. We see some other categories. There's a leader who's consistently sitting at above 4 and they're moving along, and that's great. They've stayed there. One of the things about Regions is they weren't doing so well about a year ago. They weren't doing so well. They were sort of second or third place. They've moved up consistently from that point, and in May had reached their peak. But that movement early in the year has meant they've actually led this category and won it this year. If they hadn't made that movement they've done, they would not have led this category at all. Others would have taken a role in that place. But one of the things is interesting here is that there's going to be tough competition, because we see right at this end point up here, it's very, very tight now that Fifth Third has jumped ahead, picked their act up from the start of the year. So if they continue that growth and any consistency they see, they can do well as well. But let's have a look at why Regions actually did so well. Why are they sitting up so high? What have they done to achieve that? So let's have a look at this particular area here. What we're looking at here are pain points for customers. So this is using AI text analytics to bring out these comments and understand what pain points people are experiencing across the board. We've divided these into 4 key areas. Let's first have a look at reliability and stability. One of the key ones, obviously, if the app isn't working as expected, then you're going to have problems and it's going to cause a major issue for you. So reliability and stability, we have a tie here for that lead. We've got Regions and we've got Citizens. So we've got Citizens here at 25.3. We also have Regions at 25.3. They're both doing very well compared to the market. Only 25% of the feedback is around reliability issues. They can, of course, do better compared to other larger major players, but amongst their peers, they're doing very well. Let's look at design and UI. So these are design and UI issues or problems with design and UI, like people can't find things, doesn't work as expected. What we see here is clearly Regions is doing very well. It's very low even compared to other major apps out there, major banks. They're doing very well and are leading that category as well. So very positive. Authentication. So one of the things is interesting here. This is obviously things like logging in, biometrics. Is that working as expected? Can I get into the app and do the things I need to do? Well, it's not Regions winning there. It's actually KeyBank. So one of our nominees is doing very well there at 9.1%. And we get Regions sitting at second at 10.7. So obviously we want to get these as low as possible, get these down as low as we can. So we look at features and functionality issues. So their Regions is winning. They're leading very, very strongly at 6.1, although our some others in here like Citizens and KeyBank are also doing well across the board here. So well done to Regions, who have actually led on 2 of these major categories, had a tie for one of the biggest ones, which is reliability, and also second place for authentication. So there's tough competition here, but there's still a lot of room to improve as well.
That's fantastic, Tony, and I believe that is a wrap for the 2023 Touchpoint Group Banking App Awards. And if there was a theme that really struck me throughout this entire process is consistency is key in regards to maintaining each of those core areas of the app. And as we've discussed on many times before, when you can get these areas performing well, it lifts that performance across the board in so many other areas that we dig into details with our clients. So I'll leave the final words to you, Tony, or any insights that you've got from this, and we will see everybody a little later on.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Just a couple of words from me. That consistency is one of the key things. If you start to drop in a certain month or week, it causes problems and it causes issues for customers. Consistency is why the leaders are leading, and getting on top of issues fast is why they're also leading. Thank you, Glenn.
Great. So once again, thank you all for tuning in. That's it from us, and that's it for the 2023 Banking App Awards. Looking forward to seeing how some of these organizations really up their game in 2024, because the customers are voting.